Alright, so let's bring this review to a conclusion of a sorts. And as usual, I'm going to start with the cons. My first con is going to be, of course, the included pen. This pen functions, it has a button, it has an eraser, and the tip is fine. But the build quality and just the way the pen is does not fit the price tag that this device is asking for. So I think it just simply doesn't fit the package. For the high premium price that is demanded by the device, this pen is simply insufficient. Don't get me wrong, it functions perfectly well, but it's uncomfortable, it's small, it's squeaky, it's cracky, it's plastic. It's just not something that belongs to a pretty much $900 device. The second con for me is this black outline and no option of having a white or even better, the screen color gray like Remarkable is doing. I think that would have been an absolute perfect type of option, because right now, even though it is a big A4 format, for writing not so much, but for reading you still get that contrast outline, and the content that you're reading on has to fight against the black outline of the screen. I think that having a brighter screen colored version would have been an excellent option to have, so that users can actually choose according to their preferences. Screen protector does not come pre-applied, and I'm not even gonna attempt applying this one because of all of my previous experiences with the screen protector that looks exactly the same like it is with Max Lumi. Those are incredibly difficult to apply without bubbles. As far as I'm concerned, if the manufacturer determines that the device needs a screen protector, then it should come pre-applied, especially if it's so difficult to apply by the users themselves correctly and bubble-free. However, the good news is that personally, with the writing experience and the surface that we have on the screen and everything like that, I really don't see the need. Why would I even want a screen protector? Because it feels great, it's plastic, I'm not using hard nibs. So I think even for a long-term use, I don't see it scratching that easily. Another negative point is that even though it's a really big accomplishment to have non-glass surface 13.3 inch and a front light, for some users this is going to be a con, the uniformity of that front light. As I've shown, there are some color bleeds around the bottom third of the screen, so from the bottom edges and the bottom third of the sides there's some light bleed, and that introduces a little bit of non-uniformity as far as the front light goes. From the bottom third and up it's very uniform and it works. That's something that might annoy some people, and it might be something that you need to take into consideration. However, for me, during this 1+ week that I've been using the device quite extensively, first of all, it's most noticeable when you pump up the front light all the way to the maximum. That's only time when you totally notice it. In normal use, I really did not notice it as much, and it didn't bother me. So for me, this was not definitely a deal breaker or something that kind of took away from my attention or anything like that. It worked fine, and I don't find it as a problem. But some users may look for a perfectly uniform screen, and then you need to be aware of this. I've noticed a bug, but I think this is not such a huge con because this is version 3.0 of the firmware, so of course some bugs are going to be there, but I've noticed that after extensive 12-hour slideshow, if I was to just simply slide down, the device would reboot. But if I was to just stop the slideshow and then continue, there wouldn't be a problem. And plus it was a little random. It didn't reboot every single time, it just rebooted twice, I think. So that's something that could be a thing. I didn't get the device to reboot randomly in any other circumstances other than slideshow 12 hours or 10+ hours, and then I tried to slide down to get the notifications panel down. Those were the only instances that I got of a random crash. There's another issue that some people are mentioning, and definitely it is present on this unit as well, and that is if I put a purely black background, so fully black background, and I pump up the front light to the maximum, it is not pitch black, it is a little bit grainy, and you can see those small grains even when you move that front light all the way off. So it's definitely present, but I only notice it if I'm using a pure black background and if I'm looking at it with a physically a magnifying glass. So I have to either put a webcam that's going to zoom in and sharpen it up, or use a magnifying glass. With my normal use eyesight and not using the black background fully, then I don't notice those things at all. Plus, since I've noticed it, I've checked out a couple of other devices that I have, and it was consistent there as well. I'm gonna do a more in-depth check and analysis on all devices and then report back on this, but first impression is that it seems like it's a common occurrence, but I'm not 100% sure yet, so I'll get back to you on that one. But it is definitely something that's present, and if you're predominantly working with the black background and you are very sensitive to this type of thing, it's definitely something that you have to keep in mind. And finally, the price is a con. Yes, the device offers a lot, but it costs a lot. And the cost that I'm talking about is, yes, it's $880 without VAT, without shipping, and with a very, very low budget pen. So in reality, if I wanted to purchase this device, basically it comes down to, and getting maybe a Lumi pen, for example, to get a nice package, we're looking at $1,080 or $1,100 in total, because Norway has 25% VAT, and then on top of that you add shipping, and on top of that you add a pen, and maybe a folio if you want, and you are easily in the $1,100 price range. That's a lot. That's really, really a lot. Now, for that price, you are getting the best 13.3 e-ink tablet there is currently on the market. So yes, it makes sense that it's going to be pricey, and yes, all of the 13.3 e-ink devices that are using that large panel, they cost $700 or more. So of course they're going to be pricey, and it is that super high range. I'm just saying that you have to keep in mind that it's not an $880 price. Realistically, you're going to end up looking at more at around a $1,000 or $1,100 markup, depending on the region, VAT, and what other accessories you want to add. So it's something that you definitely have to be aware of. I just got an email from one of the viewers, and he reported a dead pixel issue, which isn't really a dead pixel, but it is an issue with the screen that he noticed on his Mac's Lumi. And he referenced another video where another user also reported the same thing. Now, this is very, very difficult to notice at first, and it's noticeable only on super dark content with the front light fully shining on, and plus it's really, really small. But that kind of triggered me to check it out, and I did find one on the review unit that I have as well. So yeah, I reported it back to Onyx Boox. To be absolutely clear, I've been using the device for over a week, and I've been reading comics and things like that, and for me it was located in the bottom right side of the screen, and I really did not notice it at all. And I've done all sorts of testing under different conditions. However, I don't use front light at 100%, and when you actually go down even at 50%, it's pretty much invisible to the naked eye. So that was the reason why I didn't notice it. And in a daily use, unless you're looking at a black screen at 100% front light, it's going to be very difficult to actually see this issue. However, as one of the users also pointed out, once you see it, it's kind of difficult to unsee it if those are the conditions under which you are using the device. For example, reading black and white comics with the front light fully on, then you will probably notice it, and especially if the location is not as fortunate on this one, which is bottom right, totally out of the view, but it's actually, if it's around center, then it's something that's probably going to be an issue. So here is the dotted slash dead pixel. It's not really a dead pixel, but it's more like a hole in a screen in a way. And this is with front light 100%. So if I turn off the front light, the issue appears as if it's gone, but it's not really. This is because of the compression. It's just really, really difficult to see without the front light. However, if I turn the front light back on, you can clearly see it, and as you move around, you can see almost as if the light is shining through. This is me flipping pages on a document with a dark background and it's consistent. I was waiting for the clarification and an official feedback from Onyx Boox, and it basically confirms what I thought it was, but for good measure, I thought let's wait and see, with correct data. So basically that's a regular type of screen defect that you would normally have in any type of lit displays. So LCDs, OLEDs, and front lit e-ink panels, they all are susceptible to these kinds of defects. So while we don't have per se a dead pixel, that's a white spot because the reflective layer simply shines through. So any light that is strong enough is going to be reflected through that tiny pinhole of a defect. On an LCD or an OLED display, that would actually be manifested as a tiny dot or a dead pixel, so to speak. This is something that's fairly common actually, especially in the e-ink world, and I would invite you to actually double check the blog post that's linked in the description below for those who are more interested, because the article actually explains quite in detail what it is, how it happens, and blah 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 blah. Is this Onyx Boox's responsibility? Well, not really, because everybody who uses an e-ink screen, in this case Mobius flexible screen, be it Onyx Boox or Supernote or whoever, absolutely whoever uses it, they all get the screen panels from the same supplier. For example, if you as a customer, you have a defect and then you report that defect to, in this case, let's say Boox, then Boox has to run the checklist and see if the panel defect that you have reported to them is something that they can claim to e-ink, because they are the supplier, and e-ink gives everyone else a sheet which actually describes in which cases how many defects and what kind of defects do you have to have in order for them to be able to actually make the claim. There's a chain of dependencies here. This all seems within reason because, as I've described, on the unit that I have, it was completely unnoticeable for me until I was specifically asked to look for it, and I really had to look for it. So I'm including like a detailed photo here just to see the scale of how small that dot is. As I said, as soon as I turn down the front light, the defect in this particular case goes away. I think it depends on the use case scenario, and for me personally, upon investigating this, getting the feedback from Boox and checking into some other as well, it's basically an issue that's fairly common for e-ink displays. That's my understanding of this issue, and I hope that it helps. In case that you actually have like a much bigger problem, then definitely you should contact Boox and see if they can help you out, because from what I've seen and heard from other users as well, they seem to be fairly forthcoming. So it's definitely worth contacting them if you have an issue, because they seem to be genuinely interested in actually helping you. Now on to the pros, and there's a lot of them associated with Max Lumi. First and foremost, it's the performance. This is simply a complete beast of a device, and anything that I did with it now, combined with all the new features and everything, it just functions amazingly. Outstanding performance. The screen size allows you to pretty much a full A4 format, 1:1 ratio, and that's a huge deal when reading documents, when marking them up, when doing all these things. It just makes a huge difference, especially when going from smaller formats. That being said, you need to be aware of that 13.3-inch devices are big, of course, but for me, as a work tool, as a powerhouse kind of tool, it definitely makes sense, and it's something that I really enjoy while using. Writing experience blew me away. As the test showed, and what I've experienced while writing on it, it's better than Max 3, and it's a little bit faster than Remarkable 1. And when you combine that with everything else, that's a huge plus. So I really find the auditory, tactile, and everything that you get from the device when writing on it a super duper awesome writing experience, with the note that the default pen is not that great, but the nib itself feels really good. It actually feels better than the Lumi pens. That one was very smooth. So when I exchanged and I put the original nib into the Lumi pen, the overall experience was top-notch, and I really enjoy using it. Reader functionality, well, by now you know that I am a huge fan of the Neo Reader, and for me it still offers the top-notch experience with the version 3 as well features. It's just completely knocks everything out of the park. Everything works as I would expect it to, with one note that the marked up imported documents from PC don't come up, the highlights don't come up as you would expect them to in there. So that I think can be improved and should be. However, if your starting point is the device itself and you do all of the markups and everything else, as you've seen, it exports perfectly, all the highlights, comments, annotations, and everything else. It just works very good, and I have yet to find a device and a platform that basically does things more complete and more better and more streamlined than the Neo Reader on a 13.3-inch screen. It's just mind-blowingly good. Anything that I threw at it, it was able to deal with it. I was able to format it, adjust it so that it becomes optimal and totally usable. Connectivity is definitely awesome, not just Bluetooth for headphones or speakers and things like that. I don't care that much about that, but I'm much more interested in the connectivity of the wireless Bluetooth keyboard and how that actually works in combination with the device. And those two combined, basically the keyboard and the device itself, it transforms it into a very different experience and just explodes the usability even further. So definitely cool. Customizability, that you are able to customize your screensavers, your backgrounds, your templates, your whatever that you want, you can customize it however you want, including the new swipe up gestures, the split screen mode, the navigation bar can be customized however you want, the floating bars can be customized however you want, the toolbars can be on the left, right side, the device can orient in any way you want. It's really flexible, and you can mold the user experience into exactly what you need quite easily. Overall flexibility of the device with the customizability and the connectivity that I talked about. So basically you add external storage, another 100 gigabytes of storage, you add your Bluetooth keyboard, you add some headphones to actually listen to music to while working on it, while typing away, and you customize everything to be the way you want it to be. It's a tremendously flexible device. It's really something. And to top it all off, not only is it an amazing tablet, e-ink 13-inch tablet, but it also works as an external monitor. This will depend on the type of use that you are expecting and what do you want from it. I have not used the Dasung screen before, but from what I can see, I think that Dasung is still better as far as latency goes and things like that. That being said, this is perfectly usable and really good in a pinch. The 13.3-inch and the latency that's there make it a perfectly usable replacement screen, not a primary screen. I wouldn't go that far, but as a replacement screen, secondary screen that you're working on text typing and things like that, absolutely, I think that would work perfectly fine. And finally, the Android 10 ability to actually cast the screen of your tablet onto another device. That's awesome. The screen casting itself will depend on many things, your connection, your firewall, and all these kinds of things. But that's going to affect any Android 10 device that's attempting to use screencast. So it's not a limitation that's specific to Max Lumi device. That's basically a technology type of limitation. But once you do actually get all the nicks out and you are sure that you can establish and maintain the screencast connection, Max Lumi performs as any other device would, which means you can easily screencast your screen and then use it further on, for example, in a Zoom meeting or something else like that. A super huge bonus indeed. Finally, for me, it's the new system-wide split screen option, and it just explodes and expands the functionality of the device even further, as if all of this was not enough. It just expands it even more and makes it super useful. It's just a powerhouse of a productivity tool. So what's the overall conclusion regarding the Boox Max Lumi? Well, it's currently the best and most powerful 13.3-inch e-ink device on the market. It's not just a tablet, it doubles as a screen as well. It offers unparalleled flexibility, customizability, and expandability as well. So it's really hard to find anything that can beat this thing. That being said, it comes at a really high price. So if you want the best, you are gonna have to pay for it. And I think that you will need to take into careful consideration and differentiate between I really want one and I really need one. And when you're approaching a $1,000 price, I think you most definitely have to kind of weigh those things out and determine this is the device that I really need and I get the best bang for the buck. Now, if we're talking about the best bang for the buck, is it the best bang for the buck? I don't know. I'm gonna have to wait for Note Air to come out and then actually compare, because Note Air is considerably cheaper, but it offers a lot of the positives that Max Lumi has, granted at the smaller screen format. So I think that a more complete picture of that value for money is gonna come only when Max Lumi comes out. But if you are looking for a specifically 13.3-inch ink device and you are ready to pay the premium price that it asks for, yeah, it's gonna blow your mind. As an overall device, it's absolutely spectacular. Alright, so that concludes the overall review videos. There's two more that are going to come out after this one. In that video, I'm going to be focusing on third-party apps working in Max Lumi, only on the third-party apps, such as MS Office, MS OneNote, all the things that you guys been talking about. Not all of them, but most of the stuff that you guys been talking about. And I'm going to be covering specific apps on Max Lumi, such as Wi-Fi transfer, push read, calendar memo, and all of these kinds of things, so that you can get a more in-depth understanding of what it is that's actually possible to do with a device other than reading and writing, because the device offers so much more that I think it definitely deserves a dedicated video that covers these things, the most important ones, in detail. And after that one, there's also going to be a small little surprise bonus, and in that video I'm going to be covering the keyboard shortcuts and how to use and navigate around your Max Lumi with a Bluetooth keyboard alone. And that's pretty sweet. For me, that's a really cool thing to have as well. So I hope that some people also find that guide useful to know which shortcuts are there and how it functions in which mode. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please like and subscribe and ding dong the notification bell to get notifications with the upcoming videos. And if you like mydeepguide as a platform and the work that I do, please consider supporting the mydeepguide as a Patreon and becoming an official Patreon. Official patrons get access to exclusive content, which is behind the scenes and making of and stuff like that, more like a blog vlog type of content and approach, but it seems to be something that people are liking. For those who are already existing patrons, thank you so much. Your support really means a lot. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!